It's time!
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now because it...
Hello, and welcome to the TWSN Patreon page. Here we will provide you with the sports betting tips, picks, and information in order for you to become a successful gambler. We have 5 packages that I think really do an incredible job of providing the information tailored to you, what you want, and what your sports betting needs are. For more information, reach out to the TWSN team, but we have a ton of stuff coming your way. Content from fantasy football, sports betting for UFC, NBA, NHL, and of course, the NFL. We are so excited to be able to bring this service to you, and let us know if there's any more information you need.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now because it's the place that it all goes down on.
What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to another edition of Strikes and Submissions here. Your host, Dorian, right along my co-host, Michael Daly. Got a different background today. Mike, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's always good to be with you, Dorian. And I like this week because last week there was a little bit of a lull in upcoming action for last weekend. This weekend, though, we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Some MMA, a little bit of boxing sprinkled in here. We can jump straight into it. Right after I let you guys know, hey, follow us on Instagram and Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube here. Just hit 1,000 recently. And make sure you guys still go download that TWSN mobile app so you can read all of our articles throughout the week that we post. And yeah, diving straight into it, we had last week Aspen Ladd and Ladd-Dumont in the main event of UFC Vegas. A little bit of a dull fight, as some people would say, but not the most exciting main event, Mike. But overall, what were your thoughts on the card and the fight?
It wasn't a great main event. I think that's putting it kindly. Ladd-Dumont did what we had expected her to do. We expected her on not short notice because Aspen Ladd took short notice, but on a full camp, she would go in there and do what she is known to do. Defend any takedowns, strike as well as she can. And that's what she did. She just outclassed Aspen Ladd 4 or 5 rounds. I did not like the fact that Aspen Ladd took the fight in the first place. I will never discredit anybody for stepping into the cage, let alone stepping into the octagon on short notice. So for that, you have to applaud Aspen Ladd. I give her credit. But the reason why I said I wasn't a fan of her taking the fight in the first place is because of the timing of it. It was only 2 weeks after she had a scary, and when I say scary, I'm talking about frightening weigh-in on October 1st. That was not good when she weighed in trying to hit the 135-pound mark. So 2 weeks later, has your body fully recovered? I don't know. I think it did because she was able to only have to cut less than 10 pounds as opposed to cutting 10 more pounds. So she was only able to hit the 145 weight limit. So I think that was good for her. But all in all, it's tough taking a fight on short notice where mentally you might not be in it and having a performance like that. Now, one thing I want to hit on is the controversy that surrounded Ladd's coach. I'm not here to criticize Ladd's coach because at the end of the day, if I'm not mistaken, they're in a relationship. So their relationship goes far beyond a normal coach and a fighter. But even then, even if they weren't in a relationship, a coach and a fighter relationship is different than what any normal person would know. So it's not my place to judge the man for going hard in the paint on Aspen Ladd because at the end of the day, I have seen MMA trainers, I have seen boxing trainers literally slap their fighter to wake them up and to get their heads in the game. I've seen that before. So again, it's hard for me to criticize anybody's tactics because he had Aspen's best interest at heart. May not have been the way I would have gone about it, but it was just a tough night all around for Aspen Ladd.
Yeah, I think, and you hit the nail on the head. Norma stayed at the end of her jab, just kept Aspen at distance, at range. And I think we got, or at least I got the answer I wanted. I wanted to see if Aspen Ladd did move up to 45, would she be strong enough to still get these takedowns and be a good grappler? I, at the end of the day, came up with the conclusion, no. But in the post-fight the post-fight interview, Norma actually said, I would like to see Aspen here at 45. She belongs here. She's strong enough. She can do it. Don't kill yourself to make 35 anymore. So Norma kind of gave her like the nod. I don't know if that was just professionalism. She was just being a good sport, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, lackluster fight. 5 rounds of just staying at distance, picking her apart. Like you said, the coaching was the topic of the week, which I don't know why, because wasn't it her last fight against Kunitskaya? The coach yelled at her, said the exact same thing. Hey, I don't know what you're doing. Stop doing stupid stuff. Go out there and punch her in her face. And literally Aspen Ladd gets off the stool, 3rd round, walks up, knocks Kunitskaya on her back, finishes her. No one had an issue there. But when you're losing and you're yelling at a fighter and the fighter's not responding, I think a lot of people wanted to see maybe a difference in coaching and try to change the philosophy. But you can't. Like you said, you know your fighter. You know what makes your fighter tick. You know the certain things to say that'll make your fighter react. And he was saying those things. Hey, stop. We're down 2-0. Hey, we're down 3-0. He said, we need to finish this broad. We're down 3-0. And Aspen's just sitting there, and it looked a lot worse than I think it actually was because of Aspen's demeanor. Yeah. She's quiet. She wasn't nodding back. She's just sitting there breathing hard. And everybody's like, hey, stop yelling at her. It's like, no, she's a professional fighter. She should get yelled at if she's not doing what she has to do. Because let's take it back to the point that it always comes back to: money. If Aspen wins, she gets a win bonus. You know who else also gets a win bonus? The coaches. Mm-hmm. So when you see fighters are fighting for literally scraps and saying to people, hey, I'm broke, give me a fight, they're speaking on behalf of their coaches as well. So when we see the emotion that the coach showed, I don't want that to get misconstrued. I didn't know they were in a relationship, but if that's the case, that's even more reason. Hey, mind your business. Like, she was 9-1 coming into this fight, and I'm sure she's had the same coach her entire career. So I don't know. Other than that, I think that we'll start to see less coaching like that just because of the backlash that it got. I think when we see coaching like that and it turns out to be a win, oh, hoorah, great coaching. This is how you motivate a fighter. But when you lose, it looks really bad. And I think Aspen Ladd's coach even came out and apologized. And I don't see that happening in the future anymore.
Dorian, he shouldn't have.
Shouldn't.
Because at the end of the day, people have to stop being so soft. I'm just going to say it. When I was a kid playing sports, and I'm sure it happened to you, I had coaches who would curse me out if I made a mistake. That's just how it was. I'm not saying it's right, but at the end of the day, it allows you to get your act together, whether you're an athlete or if you're a student and a teacher's getting on you because you're not performing at your highest level. I'm not saying those things are right, but what I am saying, at times, you need a teacher or a coach who knows how to act with different individuals. Some people, they may need a swift kick in the butt. Some others, they may need an arm around and a little bit of coddling. It depends on who's there. You can't just paint with a broad brush to everybody. But now we live in such a PC society where everybody gets a participation trophy. Everyone gets coddled and told how great they are. That's not how it works. If you want to get to the top of the UFC, I'm sorry. You need your coach to say, hey, look, we're down 3-0. What you don't want is what John Kavanaugh did about 3 weeks ago to Johnny Walker. Say, hey, we're up. You can coast. You don't want that. You want someone to keep it real.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say, when we see coaching, it's the coddling, like you say. Oh, we're up 3-0. Don't even worry about it. You're doing your thing. Just keep doing it. And they lose the fight. And now everybody's like, oh, John Kavanaugh ruined Johnny Walker. They turned the most exciting fighter into a point fighter. But then you get the flip side of it. and it's Aspen Ladd getting yelled at by her coach, and oh, stop yelling at her. That's not nice. It's like, come on, dog. Look at what you're watching a fight. You're watching two humans punch each other in the face and try to make each other bleed and hurt the other person. Why do we have to be politically correct in this sport? Other sports, okay, cool. But this is not the sport for politics or just sensitivity.
It's
like
not badminton, right?
Yeah.
You get paid to punch people in the face.
Yeah. Make your fighter mad. Piss him off. Yell at him. You know, I'm sure he was spitting in her face or something like that. Pull the mask down. Do what you got to do to get that fighter to react and get violent and win. Because if Aspen Ladd goes out and finishes Dumont, the coach is the hero of the day. Oh, look at this great coaching. She doesn't, he's the villain. It's the world we live in, man. The social media era, and everything's recorded now. You know, ESPN has, you know, the fight nights now, so they're right in the corner with a camera. Man, it sucks, but it's good when you get the good clips. Okay, we like to hear coaches say good things, but when you get clips like this, it's like, man, I wish this didn't really get put out the way that it did.
Right.
But overall, I thought the fight was a bit lackluster, but that, and that's funny. Why should coaching ever overshadow the actual fight? I heard no one talking about the actual fight. It was just, oh my gosh, I can't believe her coach is yelling at her again. It's like, yeah, he's going to yell at her 4 more times if she loses 4 more rounds.
Well, Dorian, the card wasn't great. I think that's the problem. Not that the fight was bad. The card wasn't great to begin with. It wasn't stacked. I think it was one of those weeks where the UFC probably could have taken a night off. I'm sure some people probably won't like me saying that, but I think it was a week they probably could have taken off. But who am I to tell anyone they can't make money? I'm not.
True, but I did see that this was the first fight night in, I think, the year that didn't have at least one ranked fighter on it.
And that's a problem.
Aspen Ladd is ranked, but she's ranked at bantamweight and she's fought at featherweight, so it doesn't count. And that's where we get the lack of excitement at, because usually the people we want to see are the ranked guys, you know. So, but overall, we'll have a better fight night this weekend, I think.
I hope.
But let's stay on last weekend, actually, because we had some Bellator 268, another pay-per-view for Bellator, another one in the books for Corey Anderson up against Ryan Bader. I told you he'd get him out of here. And then obviously you got Nemkov defending his title. So those were the most exciting fights of the weekend. Bar none. Bar none. Those were, Bellator put on a better card than the UFC. And I just want to say that because it's very, very, very rare. I don't know if it's ever happened in my life.
Maybe the AJ McKee Patricio Pitbull. I know we always reference that one, but that might have been the first one because that was July 31st. I'm blanking. What was that? Sean Strickland? That might have been Sean Strickland.
Yeah, I think it was.
I would say that Bellator card was better, but last Saturday's card, I wouldn't say it was terrific, but the co-main event.
The main card was, I thought the main card was good.
Yeah, it was solid. The Benson Henderson fight to me underdelivered. I wanted more. I was left wanting more. No offense to Brent Primus, but I expected it to be a much closer fight than it was. Benson Henderson just accepted his position on the bottom ground. And then to add on to that, the co-main event ended like this. If you went to the bathroom or got some popcorn, it was over.
Yeah. I think Brent Primus should have maybe put a little more ground and pound with it. He's kind of seemed like he's just grappling him and controlling him, trying to get the cards, which is, you know, do what you got to do to get the win. Yeah, do what you got to do. I'm not mad at it, but that was supposed to be one of the most exciting fights of the weekend. And then, yeah, Corey Anderson sleeps Ryan Bader immediately, gets on top, grounds and pounds him out. I wish I could say more about the fight, but literally that's all that happened. Like, it wasn't, you know, nothing technical happened, but I thought it was interesting seeing how the lead up to the fights was, hey, remember, I finished you in practice and you know what it is. And then Bader was kind of brushing it off. And I said that, I was like, you shouldn't be brushing that off. That means something. Mm-hmm. And we saw what it meant, because Corey said that was years ago and I'm so much better now. And he proved it. And if it is true, he finished him in the 4th round. in the gym. He finished him in the first round this time, so we could see the improvement. And then the main event, your boy, he delivered. He scared me, but he delivered. What were your thoughts on that fight?
I'm not as worried about it as other people were, because the thing you have to realize, Nemkov, for majority of the training camp, was preparing for Anthony Johnson.
Yeah.
With Anthony Johnson, I'm not saying he's a one-trick pony, because he's not. But the most important thing you have to prepare for is that power. With a bit of an unknown opponent like Julius Anglickas, yes, he's the fifth-ranked opponent, the fifth-ranked contender in the light heavyweight division, but he's not well-known. It's a little bit of a mystery of what you're getting. I think everyone saw that in the first round, where Nemkov didn't really know what he was getting himself into power-wise. He knew Anglickas was a solid fighter, but Anglickas could pack a punch, and Anglickas had speed and timing. That's something that when you're preparing for Rumble Johnson, it's different than when you're preparing for Anglickas, because you don't really know what to expect, and it may take a round to feel out. And that's why I believe Nemkov got clipped. I don't think he would have been clipped by Rumble Johnson, because Nemkov is a great defensive fighter. But it all comes down to watching film. It all comes down to studying your opponent. When there's not as much tape on someone like Anglickas as there is Rumble Johnson, there's a difference. So when you're fighting Anglickas, you might try to swim in those waters that you won't with Rumble Johnson, but you will with Anglickas. He got caught, almost got knocked out. But the reason why I wasn't worried about it is because once he was able to absorb that shot, although I think it took a little bit out of him, he was able to use his wrestling. With Nemkov, once he's able to wrestle you and change levels, you are playing in his territory now. You're no longer on your side of the field. So Nemkov did what he had to do. He overcame early adversity, which is fine. Most MMA fighters, in order to be great, you have to overcome adversity. You have to overcome getting knocked down, nearly getting knocked out or dropped. And he did that.
Yeah, and I think to your point, he was preparing for Rumble, and then he got Julius Anglickas. And when I was watching the first round, I'm like, okay, not much film on him, like you said. I didn't think he would be as fast. He was faster than Nemkov.
Yeah.
He was the faster striker, and he got caught. But to your point, when two fighters are undefeated, or when one fighter is undefeated, that film, you watching film isn't going to be the best thing because no one solved that puzzle yet. So you're going to be looking for holes in their game. Yeah, but at the end of the day, 10-0 is 10-0. Or 11-0, I think he was, is 11-0. Like there's, that puzzle hasn't been solved yet. You got to be the first one to do it. And Nemkov figured out, hey, the way to doing it is wrestling. Because when they were standing up, he got clipped. And I'm like, oh my God, it's over. I'm getting on Mike's ass next week talking about he's the best light heavyweight in the world. He gets slept by this dude, didn't even make the Grand Prix. Oh, I was coming in here.
Dorian, can I just respond to that? I was a little nervous. I will say, I was a little nervous because I was like, oh, for full disclosure, I had already written an article that came out Monday, was published Monday, which you can check out on twsn.net. I already published an article that was set to be released Monday morning. When he got hit, I was like, I'm going to have to write a whole new article.
Take it back.
I was like, oh, this is going to be awful. But thank anything up there, whether you believe in a God or not, thank somebody up there that Nemkov survived. Because if not, your boy would have had to write a different article.
Yeah, so that was the first thing I thought. I was like, man, Mike's in for, because it's one thing to lose, but to get knocked out, you can't be the best in the world getting knocked out. But yeah, no, so good fight. He was resilient. And I like that from a champion. I said it similarly to Volk when he just fought Brian Ortega.
Yeah,
I like to see a champion go through some adversity. When guys run through an entire division and they're undefeated, and it's like, I don't know how good you really are until someone pushes you to that limit. And not to say Julius pushed him to that limit, but I think he caught him and he wasn't ready. And he's like, oh, wow, I'm actually in a fight. Like, let me stop playing around. And he stopped, and then it was pure dominance from then on. And not for nothing, I like the dominance because Nemkov is a finisher. And that's also what I like also in my champions. Finish the fight. What are we waiting for? Like you always say, you don't get paid by the hour.
Yep.
So finish your food and get out. So I was excited. The co-main, like you said, is a lot quicker, but I do think that was the two most exciting fights of the weekend by far.
They were both entertaining. The co-main event, I'm never someone who's going to complain about a quick knockout. That's something I'm never going to do because it was entertaining. And Corey Anderson, I'll say this to kind of preview the light heavyweight final because now we know who's going to be in it. It's going to be Corey Anderson and Vadim Nemkov. He was saying how he's the best light heavyweight in the world. With Corey Anderson, I think we got to pump our brakes a little bit because we saw what happened to him in the UFC. And when you're talking about the best light heavyweight in the world, you're talking about everyone in the UFC and Vadim Nemkov. You haven't even gotten past Vadim Nemkov yet, and you had issues getting past Jan Blachowicz. Look, if he beats Vadim Nemkov this time around, sure. But his win over Jan Blachowicz in 2015 is not good enough for me now in 2021 to say he's the best light heavyweight in the world. It's not. He's got to beat Vadim Nemkov for me to even put him in that conversation.
I agree. And I saw them going back and forth, and they were posting pictures of like everyone else's face after they fought. So like Corey Anderson, 2015, beat up Jan, and like Jan had all these lumps on his face. And it was a decision, but it was a dominant win for Corey Anderson. Ground and pound is his thing. And Jan's face looked crazy. And then obviously Jan comes back, KOs him in the first round. Jan kind of laughed last. So he gets to laugh loudest. Ha, ha, ha. And that was a number one contender fight to fight the light heavyweight champ at the time, John Jones. He vacated. Jan goes into a title fight, and Corey leaves the promotion. So it looks like it looks away to call yourself the best when you ran from the dude who just knocked you out. You probably weren't gonna get the trilogy fight right away. But if you got a win or two, you would get that trilogy fight, and he would probably be next in line if he beat Glover. So I don't know how he can call himself the best light heavyweight in the world, but I'm all for confidence, self-confidence, speaking things into existence, manifestation. I'm all for that. I'm not here to poop on Corey Anderson's parade, but I agree. You should pump the brakes. Good win, though. Great win. I think it was like 52 seconds or something. He knocked Ryan Bader out. And let's not forget, Ryan Bader is also the heavyweight champion. So you just knocked out a former double champ, current heavyweight champ in under a minute. Okay. Talk your talk, King.
Agreed. I will say, and this will kind of lead after I make my point here to our next conversation, Ryan Bader should now only fight as a heavyweight. I think we've seen enough for him as a light heavyweight. Don't get me wrong. He was a terrific light heavyweight, but I think he's a better heavyweight. So I think now just fight above 205 pounds, Ryan.
Yeah. And like you said, segue right into the next topic. Look at Mike segueing us like he always does. Bellator 269. We got Fedor Emelianenko coming back. Some say the heavyweight GOAT. Some say the GOAT against Tim Johnson. And when this fight got booked, it was, Fedor's coming back. Oh, everybody was happy. Who's he going to fight? They just had him on this card headlining without an opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, I'm like, okay, who could he fight? Is he going to come back into a title fight? Is he going to fight Bader? Like, I didn't know what was going on. He's fighting Tim Johnson. And not that that's a bad opponent to come back, but for context, Tim Johnson lost his last fight to the number one ranked heavyweight in Bellator, Valentin Moldavsky. Tim Johnson is 3-3. Why is Fedor fighting him, Mike? Let's be real. Why did Fedor pick him to fight as opposed to the number one contender?
I think I know why. Fedor trained Valentin Moldavsky for that fight. Fedor was in his corner, Moldavsky's corner, against Tim Johnson. And funny enough, they fought June 25th, Moldavsky and Johnson. The Fedor fight was already announced. He didn't have an opponent, but it was already announced October 23rd. Fedor's fighting in Russia. They didn't know against who, just so happened to be against Johnson. But I think Fedor said, you know what? I trained my guy Valentin against Tim Johnson. I showed him everything he needs to do to beat Johnson. I can do that too. I can box against him like Valentin Moldavsky did. I can defend any takedowns. I can take him down like Valentin Moldavsky did. And I'm going to bring him away from Uncasville, Connecticut, and I'm going to have him fight in Russia, in my home country. Good luck, Tim Johnson. I think that is what was going through the mind of Fedor Emelianenko and Bellator, I guess, too, when they were trying to get his next opponent. Because Tim Johnson, yes, he's 3-3, but for Bellator in their heavyweight division, he's a relatively big name. And to be fair, he was on the cusp of fighting or winning an interim title. So I think it makes sense. It's a pretty decent name. It's a talented guy to a pretty good extent. And if this is Fedor's last fight, there's a good chance that he can win this. But there is also a good chance, because it is a heavyweight fight and Fedor has lost before, he has been knocked out before, that Tim Johnson could sleep Fedor because Tim has power.
I think it's just interesting that you come back to fight a guy that's 3-3 in Bellator. Like that just, and I get where you're coming from. I actually didn't know he was in the corner of Moldavsky, so that makes sense. He doesn't want to fight his guy, I guess, if they're cool. But Fedor then came out earlier today and said this isn't his retirement fight. So he's going to win this, and then what? Because are you going to fight the heavyweight champion? I know he wants to fight Ryan Bader, but are you thinking Bader's going to beat Moldavsky? Like, I'm not sure where the logic in this goes or where he goes from here. I don't even know how to predict this fight because Fedor's been retired, and it's I feel like you're picking on him. So I have to pick Fedor to win because, like you said, if he's seen something in his game, hey, I can do that. I can beat him. I have the blueprint already. Mm-hmm. Let me fight him. And Bellator's going to give him whoever he wants because Bellator's just happy that he's there. In Russia, like, this is a huge deal. Fedor, home country, supposed to be, I guess, is not his retirement fight, but his last fight, you know? And this should have been for a title, in my opinion. I don't think it's cool to come out of retirement and get a title shot as long as Fedor's been retired, unless you were left on top of the game. Like, if Khabib comes back, he gets a title shot. Henry Cejudo wants to come back, he'll get a title shot. Fedor coming back, you weren't the champion when you left. So I don't know how you come back, get the number 2 guy, and then expect to fight for the belt next. This isn't your swan song. I don't know. I'm picking Fedor to win because he picked on him, and you don't pick on someone you don't think you can beat. So I do think Fedor gets the win. I don't know how. I don't know how this goes, but this is weird to me, Mike. That's all.
I think Fedor gets a second-round knockout. Things are just playing too well in his favor. What doesn't make sense to me is that this isn't his last fight. Why now are you going to fight in Russia when you are closing in on 50 years of age? I don't think it makes sense to fight beyond this because after then, what's really out there? You're not going to fight Valentin Moldavsky. And a Valentin Moldavsky Ryan Bader unification bout is no easy task for Moldavsky to win. I don't care what anyone thinks about Ryan Bader. That's going to be a tough fight for Moldavsky. But if Moldavsky wins, then Bader, I guess, will be kind of relegated in a way. So that's probably what Fedor thinks. Fedor probably thinks Moldavsky can beat Bader, and then he'll kind of get the second licks, if you will. He'll get the leftovers. But I don't know. I think if you're Fedor, you have to put everything into this fight because you're fighting in front of your home country. You're one of the biggest names Bellator has ever had. And
Easily.
And it's a big reason why Bellator is even allowing you to come back now. So Fedor has to put on a massive showing, and I think he will.
And I'm looking here, he knocks out Rampage in 2019. He's now 45, and he's saying that he has one more fight in him. So he's gonna win this fight, hopefully, for him. And then he's fighting one more time. What are you planning to gain? Is this just for a paycheck? Is this just to come back and beat your chest and say, hey, Francis and Cyril Gane, you guys aren't the best heavyweights. I'm the best heavyweight. Like, what does he gain from this? Okay, if you want a main event in your home country, he's going to take that at any age, right? But I don't know. I don't get it. And I was reading here, they were going to offer him Junior Dos Santos. They were going to sign him to Bellator, but Fedor didn't want to fight him because he was on a losing streak. And I'm like, but the guy you're fighting just lost. I don't know. It's weird to me, but I'll tune in. You know, I don't think I've seen Fedor fight. I don't think I've seen Fedor fight live, maybe ever. I only catch recaps. I don't know why. I always miss Fedor fights, but this will be my first time catching it. Live, at least.
He's fought a lot in the U.S., at least in the last 10 years. I believe he has fought in Russia, and he fought over in Japan a lot, too. So that makes sense, but Fedor is a big name in MMA, and whenever he retires, he'll be remembered as one of the greatest to ever put on gloves, but I just think if there is a fight to go out, it's in your home country, right? Wouldn't this be the fight to end it all on? But apparently not if you're Fedor. Fedor probably thinks he has more left in the tank. I think he can get away with that in a promotion like Bellator because as great as Bellator is, they are going to feed him guys who are easier matchups to an extent. They're going to give him older guys because that's really what their heavyweight division is made up of. Older guys who are kind of towards the tail end of their career, still good fighters, but are not what they once were. That's why he was fighting people like Matt Mitrione and Chael Sonnen. He was fighting guys that were kind of over the hill, and he was able to get some wins. But I think he's going to get a big win against Tim Johnson. Tim Johnson, if he loses this fight, I don't know where he goes because then you're 3-4 in your last 7.
Yeah, and not for nothing that the fight against Czech Congo, I personally didn't score that for him. So I don't know if that was a weird split to me. Yeah. But I think Fedor should have fought Czech Congo. Like what? I would have rather have seen that. Those are two bigger names. But I don't know. I guess he wants to win in Russia, and then maybe he'll main event in Russia again for his actual last fight. I thought this was his actual last fight, but I guess not, man. He's running Bellator over there somehow. Still running the heavyweight division. GOAT stuff. But moving back to the UFC for this week, we have I can't even say middleweight main event anymore. We have the catchweight 195 main event. The number 2 and number 3 contender in middleweight. I guess you got to put them. I don't know. Paulo Costa, Marvin Vettori are fighting. If you haven't heard, Marvin Vettori came out and said Paulo Costa is extremely overweight, and he's asked him to accept like a catchweight, some type of agreement. Paulo goes back to the media and says, what's the point in cutting 85 if we're not fighting for a title? Me and him can both fight at 195 or 205. We'll have more energy. It'll be more exciting. We'll be more powerful for the fans. And when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, Paulo Costa, you're right. And I'm like, oh, this is like a middleweight fight. That's why. You signed to fight at middleweight. That's why. It's the week of the fight. You change weights. And now You're not fighting at middleweight, but yet you think the winner should still fight Adesanya. You think if Costa thinks if he wins, he's next in line for the belt. I don't know if Costa knows Derek Brunson and Jared Cannonier is booked. I don't think he knows that Whitaker still has to fight Adesanya. So Costa's probably going to have to fight again, if we're being real. But, Mike, who you got in this fight? I'm eager to see who you have.
I'm disappointed in Paulo Costa. Let me start there. You knew this fight was at 185 pounds. Yet again, you make another excuse. Before this whole debacle happened, where there's a catch weight, which boggles my mind that the UFC is even allowing this, but hey, I get it. I had Paulo Costa winning.
To cut you off real quick. I saw the UFC is allowing it because they're saying Costa wouldn't be safe or healthy enough to fight. He's not cutting 30 pounds because he's 211 pounds 2 days before weigh-ins. He's not cutting 30 pounds. So to keep the main event, they're allowing Vettori to take 20% of his purse and then bump up 10 pounds. So they already know he missed weight and they're already fining him for it. So just want to lay that out there. Continue.
As they should.
Yeah.
I think there should be a steep penalty for missing weight like that, but not even missing weight, not even what Paulo Costa did, and this is what makes me mad, didn't even try to make weight and then goes, oh, let's meet halfway. Buddy, this isn't boxing. Now you're going to have another excuse. Against Adesanya, you drank wine. You got injured for your April scheduled bout against Robert Whitaker. Now this is your next best shot to fight for the title.
That wasn't even an injury. He caught the flu 2 months and he pulled out of that fight with 6 weeks to go. And everyone, the flu, 6 weeks?
You know what, Dorian? And then he was complaining that he doesn't get paid enough. Right?
Wonder why.
Week after week after week after week, it's a new thing with Paulo Costa. So before this whole catchweight debacle, I had Paulo Costa winning because I was looking at the statistics. I was watching previous fights of theirs. I was saying Vettori's best shot is to try to take him down. But Paulo Costa has an 80% takedown defense rate. Good luck, Marvin Vettori. But now I'm going to go with Marvin Vettori because to me, I don't like where Paulo Costa's head's at. I don't like it one bit. You're not even attempting to get down to 185 because you're already waving the white flag saying, oh, look, it's too dangerous for me to get down to 185, which it is. And I understand it. And I respect him for having the awareness. But not too many other fighters get to have that luxury. Not too many other fighters get to meet halfway and have a catchweight fight. I'm sorry, they don't.
Just him and Nick Diaz.
And look how that worked out for Nick Diaz. And Nick Diaz is a big reason why I'm not going with Paulo Costa in this fight, because from a technical standpoint, you could say, all right, Nick Diaz was better than Robbie Lawler. From a technical standpoint, you can say for this fight, Paulo Costa is a better fighter than Marvin Vettori. But again, fighting as much as it is physical, it's mental. Paulo Costa mentally, I don't think is equipped enough to beat someone like Marvin Vettori. So after Paulo Costa loses this fight, you know what he needs to do? Jump up to light heavyweight and fight for the title. Because I'm going to be honest with you, Paulo Costa at 205 is a problem. Paulo Costa at 185, yes, he's scary, but he has Israel Adesanya. I think there are much better matchups for him at 205. So look, lose this fight against Vettori, figure out whatever's going on in your career, move up to 205. He's got too many good people around him for these mistakes to keep happening. He has Waleed Ismail, his coach, I believe Eric is his name. He has a decent camp around him. This stuff can't happen at such a high level.
I agree. And I understand your frustration. As a fan, you are a professional. You have to be a professional. If you sign a contract months in advance, hey, I'm making 185, and you get to not the week of the fight, 3 days before weigh-ins, and you say, hey, I'm 211 pounds. I don't think I can get down to 85. And then you know what really pissed me off? Because I'll preface this with saying I like Paulo Costa. I like his personality. I like him as a fighter, obviously. After the lead up to the Izzy fight and after the Izzy fight, something changed. You can see his aura about him, that invincibility when you're undefeated and you're the man and you got big muscles and okay, cool. You get beat by Izzy. No shame in that. You get knocked out by Izzy. Even still, no shame in that. Then you're starting to make excuses. Oh, I was up drinking red wine the night before. That sounds like a you problem. Oh, now the next fight you take with Robert Whittaker, winner gets Izzy. You pull out 2 months before because you had the flu. Not COVID-19, not the coronavirus flu, but the regular flu. And you pull out with almost 2 months to go. And then you say you never signed to fight him in the first place. And then now this with Vettori. And I looked and it's been a year since he's fought.
Yeah.
You don't take a year off in your prime if you're all there mentally. And for that reason, I have Marvin Vettori. I do think Paulo Costa is the better fighter. I think he's the better striker. I think Vettori is the more active grappler, but I actually think Costa's a better grappler, standing at least with clinching. But I can't. Costa has 2 rounds to get Vettori out of here because we know Vettori's going to be shooting for the fences repeatedly, and we know Vettori has the gas tank to do it. And now you're making it so he doesn't have to cut an extra 10 pounds. That's only going to add to his gas tank, I think. Now that he doesn't have to cut to 85, he only has to cut to 95. And who knows how bad that cut is even for him, because we know Costa weighs 211, but we don't know what Vettori weighs walking around. So what if he's 198? He doesn't really have to cut anything to make 95 and has all the cardio in the world. I think Vittori's live for a finish after the second round. I don't see this fight going to the cards. I don't know if Costa's cardio has improved. I don't know if he'll be able to defend takedowns for 25 minutes straight. And then when he's on the ground, we haven't seen Costa off his back. Like you said, he has 80% takedown defense, is it?
Yeah.
So, and he's fought some wrestlers. He's fought Johnny Hendricks. He fought Yoel. So we haven't really seen him off his back much, but I'm comfortable with Vittori's top game. If he's not going to do damage, he'll keep you there, even if you're the bigger man. But I do think Paulo's the actually better martial artist, which sucks because you always want to pick them in the fight. But with everything going on, man, something's not right. Something's off with him, his confidence. I don't know what it is. And he's talking about he doesn't want to move up to 205 yet. He wants another shot at the title first. You can't get a shot at the title if you're not fighting at that weight class, Paulo. I don't know who's in his ear. You say he has a good corner around him. I say the exact opposite. I don't know. I think he has yes men around him because there's no way that you allow your fighter to be 211 pounds on fight week. That just doesn't make sense to me.
So the reason why I'll say this quickly, because I know we got to move on. The reason why I say he has a good camp is because they train and manage other fighters. He's not the only one.
Right.
But those fighters don't have these problems. But when it comes to Paulo, every month there's a new issue. Paulo is too good, too skilled, and too experienced to be going through this. He's got to get his act together, and he has to move up to 205, or you know what? He's big enough to fight at heavyweight. I'm sorry. That's all I'll say, because I know we got to move on, but pick a different weight now. It's enough. Enough's enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think moving up the light heavyweight, if he loses, 100%, because now you have Vettori, Whittaker, Brunson, Cannonier, and Izzy in front of you. That's murderer's row to even get back to a title shot, and it's not guaranteed you're even going to make the weight. So that title fight's not getting booked. I think he should move up and hopefully, revamp his career. But yeah, like you said, let's move on. We got a little boxing for you guys. I know our boxing fans tell us we don't talk about boxing enough, but we got Shakur Stevenson, Jamel Herring this weekend. And Shakur's Moving up, challenging him for the belt. Who you got in this fight, Mike?
I have Jamel Herring. Too many people are favoring Shakur Stevenson. And I get it. Shakur, an Olympic medalist, one of the biggest up-and-coming names in boxing. I understand it. But Stevenson had a big challenge back in June against Jeremiah Nakatalia. That was a big fight for him. And I'm never someone to discredit a fighter for not getting a finish, because I understand you have to open yourself up in danger in order to get a finish. But in order to beat someone like Jamel Herring, I think you have to, in your previous fight before fighting Herring, you have to put on a better performance than he did against Nakatalia. And I don't think he did that. Now, for Herring, yes, Herring has been the world champion at 130 pounds since May 2019. But Herring has power. And Stevenson in the past has been caught by people. Not hurt, but people can touch Shakur Stevenson. It's happened. Jamel Herring has the power to touch him and hurt him. I'm not saying put him away, but to hurt him and change the scorecards. How the scoring is shaped, I think Herring can change it. Look, no one really thought Herring would be able to knock out Carl Frampton on an uppercut, and he did. You mean to tell me he can't do the same to Shakur Stevenson? That's why right now I think Stevenson's in above his head. That's why he's talking a lot of trash this week. He's trying to get into Herring's head, but Herring is a Marine. Herring has gone through the ranks, worked his tail off to get to where he is today as a boxer. That stuff doesn't get to him. So I'm going to go with Jamel Herring, a split decision victory in Atlanta on Saturday night.
It's interesting that you brought up his Marine background, because I was watching the face-off, and Shakur Stevenson is actually very familiar and friendly with Herring's corner.
Mm-hmm.
So they were going back and forth, jolly banter, ha, 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 and the face-off. Oh, bet you won't touch the belt, though. Bet you won't touch the belt. And Shakur grabbed the belt on his shoulder.
Yep.
And I saw Herring's eyes. No, this is my – I know you're friends with my peoples. You can joke with that. Don't joke with me. This is my belt. You're not taking this. And it's weird because usually I look for a face-off to see the psychological effects that, the fighters trash talk play on one another. That Marine mindset is different. Herring wasn't affected at all. He wasn't moved. He didn't care. He said, hey, it's all business. I have no problem with Shakur. Shakur has no problem with me. We just got to build the fight.
They're friends, by the way.
Yeah, and he impressed me. I'm not going to lie. I'm going with Shakur, though.
Okay.
It's no way possible. No way possible Herring gets this win. I think Shakur's faster. I think you say he was a little lackluster in his last fight. That's fair, which is exactly why I'm picking him this time. Because now he knows he doesn't need a finish, but he knows it got to be a little bit more exciting than the last fight. And not for nothing, it wasn't on him. The guy's just standing there getting punched. There's only so many punches you can throw. So he couldn't get him out of there, though. But I don't think Stevenson has the power. But it's Jersey. I'm rolling with Jersey. He put Nork on his back. And I think he gets the unanimous decision.
So you're being biased is what you're telling me.
No biasness. I think he's the faster fighter. I don't know if either of them has big knockout power. But if I had to lean knockout power, I'd probably go Herring. But I think Shakur's faster and more of a technical fighter. And I think as the challenger with I don't want to call it a bad performance, but with a challenger with a lackluster performance, that in your last fight, I think you have something to prove now. And I think Herring is kind of in a point in his career where he, like you said, he's been the champion since 2019. He's been at, the top ranked cards for a long time now. This is Shakur's time now. It's changing of the guard.
I'm going to be honest with you, Dorian. I disagree because Herring, I have to take his background into consideration. As a Marine, you're just a different type of person. And as great of a fighter as Shakur Stevenson is, I'm not saying he isn't, and I think one day Shakur will be a world champion. I just don't think it's Saturday because Herring has all of the technical abilities that Stevenson does. The only difference is Stevenson's younger. He's faster, like you said, but you know what? One thing Stevenson doesn't do, he doesn't cut off the ring as well as he should. Herring, that's something he's very good at. And Herring also is great at shocking people. Not too many people know who Jamel Herring is, and it's unfortunate because he's a great boxer. A lot of people, particularly in the New Jersey area where you and I hail from, they know who Shakur Stevenson is. But you know what? Jamel Herring is also from New York. He reps the great state of New York. So this is going to be a classic New York, New Jersey battle. I don't know why it's taking place in Atlanta. I know Atlanta is starting to get hot in the boxing scene, but this fight should be either Prudential Center or MSG. I don't disagree. I mean, I don't agree with it being held at State Farm Arena. I think they could have made a better choice.
Yeah, I think I heard Herring said he has family down there, and he's glad that they're doing it there.
That makes sense.
Because it's like COVID protocols and stuff. So Georgia's been open for so long. They're just gonna flood that arena out. They're probably gonna sell it out in 15 minutes once they put the tickets up. But yeah, I don't know why it wasn't done in Jersey, but you can't really give the challenger the home game. And with New York, with everything, you got to be vaccinated to even go inside of a building. A lot of people wouldn't even go to that event. But I want to say his last point. You said he doesn't cut the ring off quick enough. Do you think him knowing the trainer of Herring, do you think he knows the type of game plan Herring's going to try to implement and counter that? Or do you think Shakur is going to go in there and fight his own fight?
I think it'll be a combination because him and Shakur have trained together a long time in Colorado Springs. And I think you are going to see part of their training sessions come into play in the ring. Like we just talked about with Corey Anderson and Ryan Bader. They know how one another fights. So I think you were going to see that. But ultimately, though, Shakur has the confidence that he's going to know how to go about it his own way. But I think he will take part of the sparring sessions and the training sessions.
Okay. Figured. I think that if there is a finish, I do think Herring gets it, though. I don't think Shakur can put him out just yet. He got to grow into his man body a little bit more, get a little more mass on those bones, and he'll be knocking people out left.
He'll get there.
He'll get there. And he's very young. I think he's 24, 25?
I don't even know if he's 24. He might be 23. And that's the thing. Shakur, he's been propelled, but I don't think a loss at this point in his career is a bad thing. If anything, I think it might be helpful because boxing, we got to realize these guys at times need to lose to figure everything out and then get even better. So Shakur is going to be a pound for pound champion one day. I just don't know if it's this weekend.
Fair. I can't believe Jersey's going up against Jersey like this, but I'll remember this next week.
I got to be fair.
Okay. So does Shakur. All right, guys. We'll catch you next week. We'll have another good episode for you. We'll be previewing 267, which is the most stacked card I've ever seen in my entire life. So that'll be fun. Hopefully, Fedor and Shakur and Costa and Vettori leave us with some good moments that we can discuss as opposed to this previous Fight Night's main event. But other than that, make sure you guys check out the Shop Talk coming up next. And we out. Peace.
Get up, let me begin. This